Welcome back, Wogglers. So today we're going to be talking about mass updating. So let's say, as an example, we're going to pick on our leads records again. We want to update the lead source. So instead of trade show, these actually should all be webinar. So let's go, we could go through and we could say, all right, so instead of trade show, let's edit. So instead of trade show, it's actually, a web search. There we go. It's a web search. We have to save. So we could do that individually for all the leads in our system, or we could do some mass updating. So the first thing we could do is we could filter by lead source. So I'm gonna look for lead source. The lead source is trade show, because we only want to change the ones that are trade show over to web search. So once we've gotten all of those, we've got 35 records that are marked as trade show. What we could do is just click this little box on top, and it'll check all of the 10 records that we're seeing in our view. And if I'm like, wait a minute, and clear that. And instead of 10 records per page, I'll do 100 records per page. That way I can click them and it will select all 35 at the same time. From there, you click Actions, and then you say Mass Update. And we'll choose maybe sub-lead source. And we'll say the sub-lead source for this should be Google. And then click Update. All right, there we go. So now we've updated the sub-lead source for all of those. Now, if you'll notice, lead source didn't actually come up as an option to update. So if I stop the filter by lead source, and I'm thinking maybe it was because I was filtering by lead source that it wouldn't allow me to do it. Let's try to mass update with lead source now. You'll see that lead source is not actually available for the mass update. That happens occasionally with certain types of fields and specific fields in your CRM. Sometimes you just can't mass update them through that way. But you can get around that. So what you would do, or rather what I would do, is export all of my leads. And so if you haven't watched our export video, you can go ahead and watch that. And then I would delete all of the columns except for the lead ID and the lead source. You don't actually have to do that, it just works for my brain. That's how I like to do it. But then you go to import leads. And then you go and you find your lead list that you wanted to update everybody with. And click next. And then you update existing leads. So you would just only update existing leads. If you had on that list leads that existed in your CRM and then leads that didn't exist in your CRM, you would want to do both. But for us, all we want to do is change the lead source from trade show to web search. So we're going to find existing leads based off of, you can do lead ID or email. Lead ID is probably going to be more accurate more often. I happen to know that this particular file that I'm using for this example doesn't have the lead ID on it, so I'm going to choose email instead. All right. So there's this don't update existing values, or update empty values for existing leads. That means that if the column that you've mapped to a field in the file doesn't have anything in that row or that cell, then it will not override information in your CRM with a null value or with an empty value. That's what we want. All right, we'll go ahead and click next. And so here, what we can do is we're just gonna reset field mapping, which basically means it's gonna unselect everything that's been mapped, which is, again, exactly what we want, because we really only wanna map email with email, and we only wanna map lead source with lead source. Those are the only two things. We want the email so that we can deduplicate and find the existing leads, and we want the lead source to be updated. So we can either, if you went into your file and you went and updated the file to say that the lead source is now going to be web search, then what you can do is you would see that here in the sample data. You'd see web search because you updated the file that you're using to import. I forgot to do that, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to unmap this here, select none, and then I'm going to assign a default value for that. So we'll do lead source, and we'll say this is a web search. All right, and that's it. Just click next, and then it's going to be like, hey, you didn't map a lot of fields. That's fine, because all we want to do is find the matching email addresses and update the lead source. From here, you can trigger automations and things like that, and also we're again confirming that our intent is not to spam these people. And then the lead import has been scheduled. So now we wait for the import to complete. We'll see a little pop-up. Hey, there it is. This is a pretty simple one. We're only updating. All right, so as you can see, of the 16 records in the file, we were able to update 13 of those, and it skipped 3 because it couldn't find any matching email. And I can see from here that it was rows 15, 16, and 17, which basically tells me that there probably wasn't anything in those rows anyway. But if you're curious, you can download a list of records with errors and take a look at them and compare them to your original upload file to see what rows 15, 16, and 17 had in them, and if you need to update those 3 rows or whatever you want to do with these 3 errors. All right, and then refresh to see the new updated information with all the web searches, and you're all good. I'll see you in the next one. Woggle woggle.